All right, everybody, welcome back to the Financier. This is the weekly call going over the newsletter from earlier today. A couple of updates from this week. If you're new, if you're just signing up for the first time, feel free to comment below on the side, whatever works best for you. Love to hear where you're from, what your thoughts are, what questions you all have. Obviously, the stimulus plan was just released. I have barely even gone through the facts myself. So I'm actually hosting two events this month, next Thursday and the Wednesday afterwards, to discuss the stimulus plan with a couple experts, lenders, accountants, a couple representatives from the NJEDA, and then a couple other organizations to help discuss and dissect what's available to small businesses, what's available to anybody that's in the industry, anybody that's trying to take advantage of the PPP and any other financing options that are available. New Jersey just released the Evergreen Fund, which is the new capital fund for them, where they're investing alongside startups and new ventures. They have a tax credit program, a lot more grants. So it's not just a federal thing that's available to everybody. There's also a micro local thing. So New Jersey's done quite a bit, and I'll bring a couple of those panelists and I'll be moderating the event. So first up today on the Financier, I talked about three major things: a big deal for StreamYard, Visa acquisitions, a failed acquisition, Walmart's entering the Fintech space, and then I asked one question from my due diligence checklist, something that I use to break down my investment style, what I look at. So I'll start doing a lot more in that space. But first up, let's talk about the Visa deal. Visa was acquiring Plaid. Plaid is the API or backend interface for financial accounts, like banking, accounting, anything that personal or business bankers use. Plaid was founded in 2013 by two guys in the industry with just $2.8 million. Last January, they were acquired by Visa, or were supposed to be acquired by Visa for $5.3 billion. But in November, this deal fell apart. The Department of Justice just thought it was an antitrust violation by Visa. This would be a monopoly in the fintech financial payments industry. So they said they're creating obstacles for the two businesses. So Plaid took the opportunity to terminate this deal. They said this is a good time to say let's take a step back. E-commerce had explosive growth in 2020. Obviously, as a payments lender, they saw a lot of that growth. They experienced it. A lot of the transactions went through the Plaid platform. So it's a pretty big move for them. So they probably were underselling themselves at $5.3 billion. So they walked away from the deal. It just broke up this week. They actually, I think, will probably go public through a SPAC or an IPO. There are too many liquidity options available for companies like Plaid. There are major people like Chamath who have already mentioned that they would love to be part of the deal. They would love to take the company public. There's so much more they could do with it. So it's very exciting to see this, what's going to happen next. On the heels of that news, Walmart has already mentioned that they will be announcing a fintech business startup to compete with other payment lenders. Walmart has about almost 5,000 stores in the U.S. and about 11,000 globally. 5,000 is roughly about 100 stores in each state. And that means they probably have enough local real estate to compete with the banks in every single state in the country. Regional, local, major banks, doesn't matter. But the most important piece is that they have access and a relationship with the lower income part of America. They know this part of America. They provide the best service. They provide lowest costs for the best goods. So it's really it's a real big advantage for Walmart. They already provide money orders, check cashing, and credit cards. So this is really going to help their experience, the customer experience. When you come in, you buy something, you can handle everything at Walmart. If your banking is provided at Walmart, then you really could do a one-stop shop. It's a big advantage over what Amazon doesn't have, as a retailer, and Walmart dominates this space. But to be honest, I think Walmart will actually, this startup will actually fail under Walmart's umbrella. It's really hard to build brands. It's really hard to build that trust factor and to acquire hundreds of millions of users, even if you're at the scale of Walmart. And Walmart has done this in the past. They couldn't enter the e-commerce space. It was too competitive. So they bought Jet.com from New Jersey. Mark Lowry's acquisition. Mark Lowry sold his last business to Amazon. He was very familiar with the space. So he built a business that everybody wanted to use. And Walmart will really have to move away from the core competency as a retailer and move into financial services. It just will require a lot more manpower, a lot more effort on their part to do this. And I think it will fail. I think Walmart will end up buying either a bank or a financial service platform to get into the space, and then it will be able to build a brand around that and have something that already has millions of customers, and then take it to tens of millions of customers. Next up is the virtual events that's taking the big acquisitions taking place in virtual events. The platform I'm using today to do live streams, StreamYard, is one of my favorite tools. I just signed up for it in November. I've been doing LinkedIn live streams every week. It's been a variety of the Financier Weekly Calls, interviewing guests, hosting live events, a whole variety of things. StreamYard allows me to multi-stream from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So I'm all across in every single platform. The company bootstrapped its way to $30 million in revenue, but they were just acquired in the last week by Hopin, which is the largest virtual events organizer. They are way bigger in virtual events than Zoom. This company raised $40 million this summer, another $125 million last month to achieve actually only $30 million in sales. So to compare the two companies, we have StreamYard that has bootstrapped to $30 million and Hopin that has raised $165 million to get to $30 million in revenue. Both of these companies will be combined under the Hopin brand. I think it's a really good deal. I think StreamYard really made out from this deal. It's a big, big turnaround for them. I think they have the best product. There are a lot of other multi-streaming platforms, but this is definitely the best service. I recommend checking out two events I did this week. One was with the founder of Dealmakers, Jason De Laurentiis. We had hundreds of people watch the interview live. We talked about Dealmakers, how he created a buy-side group for the private equity world in New York, his experience in insurance, and what he plans to do in 2021. I have it linked up on my profile and in the newsletter from earlier this week. For the next events, I already mentioned, I'll be doing two about the stimulus plan. The first one is on January 21st with the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. I'm the co-chair for the New York chapter, so we'll be hosting something with the 4 representatives in lending, accounting, and banking. I definitely recommend checking it out. We'll connect with a lot of small businesses, talk about the PPP loans. To expand on this, I'll be hosting the second event on January 27th with Thai, New Jersey, to talk about the stimulus plan as well. This is round 2 because I did the previous event for Thai in the April-May period of last year. This time we'll expand into the NJEDA programs, talk about the grants, talk about what's happening in New Jersey specifically, and what opportunities small businesses have to receive funding. So I think those are great programs. I highly recommend it. There will be a lot of people attending both events, given the fact that Biden has just already prematurely announced that he's going to provide a $1.9 trillion stimulus. It is very early for him to say that, since it's still a week before he becomes president. And there's a lot of stuff he has to do when he becomes president. Within the first 90 days, 100 days of him becoming president, I think there's going to be a lot of turnaround. There's going to be a lot of things that he has to reverse, a lot of things he has to update and change. So I think this stimulus is only adding fuel to the fire. I hope it takes off well. It does a lot for the community and is more successful than the last one. But I think he has a lot of things on his plate, and this is a really big task to undertake. So last piece of today's newsletter, I may also go a little bit into the previous 2 articles I published, but I am starting to release a piece on the investment checklist that I use to do due diligence when looking at investment deals. The first question, I have maybe 30, 40 questions on my list. I'm always adding or removing depending on how useful items are in specific industries, specific areas of the market. The question I'll review today is, do you understand the product or service offered by a company? This is the best way to get started with any investment deal, anything that you think, hey, Kent, what's going on? If anything you think is interesting, do you understand it? So the example I use in today's article is electric cars, because it's a physical, tangible product that you can talk about. A lot of investors make investments in stocks, real estate, and businesses, but they never understand the customer demand. They never take the moment to say, hey, what does this company do? Why is it interesting? Why are people buying it? And does it make sense? Does it have the potential to become a much larger business, 10x or more? So Tesla is a good example. Tesla and Nikola Motors are two companies in the electric vehicle industry. Tesla obviously has been around for more than a decade. You see the cars, you've seen them on the street. Everybody uses them. 500,000 were sold last year during the pandemic when dealerships were closed. So they have some amount of revenue. They're doing well. People love the product. They're diehard fans. And the company is 8x in the last 12 months. So you can do a lot of that due diligence. You can talk to Tesla owners. You can drive and test drive a Tesla. You can buy a car. Whatever you think is most fitting for you, you can learn. Hey, Raj, what's going on? You can just, you can sign up and you can actually feel the product and the company's doing something. And you can see the customer demand, like on Twitter, social, everywhere. On the other hand, you have Nikola Motors. The company is also an electric vehicle. It did a SPAC sometime in the summer, but I've never seen the car on the road because they've never released a truck. They never released their hydrogen or whatever they're doing and the electric cars, whatever they're trying to do in the trucking world and the trucking world and whatever else they're trying to release. They've never released it. Hey, Dominique, I'm from Hoboken, so it's nice to see you from Jersey City. So Tesla, Nikola is a big company. It's been valued at like $11 billion, but they never released the business, never released a product. You can't do any due diligence. There's nothing you can actually touch and feel. They have $0 in revenue. So it's really hard to justify why they're worth even over $1, right? They spend hundreds of millions in R&D. They have nothing to show for it. They've now been called out for fraud. So when you first look at an investment, the first question you want to ask is, do you understand the product or service offered by the company? And I don't understand it for Nikola Motors. And it's really hard to justify making an investment there. But on Tesla, the other hand, you can actually touch the company. You can feel the business, a product, everything around the company. Warren Buffett uses the same strategy. He buys businesses that he feels are in his circle of competence. So he bought See's Candy, for example. It's a company that he used to, eat the chocolate. He's given away the chocolate. You can see him eating it at his shareholder meetings. A lot of other companies like this that he loves to talk about, that he loves to actually buy and consume, and he understands it. So he uses this as his first question. He uses it, hey, does this fall in my circle of competence? Yes or no? Then he moves forward. If it doesn't, you move forward, find something that does. So on that note, I wrote something yesterday about Intel. They're having a change in leadership. I'm already published another video about this, but I'll quickly mention that one of the transitions in leadership was because the CEO, the first CEO who's stepping down next month, Bob Swain, has a background. He's an MBA, a business finance guy, but he doesn't know anything about semiconductors. He might be a really good leader and manager, but in a fast-moving environment in technology, you need to have a strong competency in electrical engineering, technology, software, hardware. And the new CEO, Pat Gelsinger, has that. He worked at Intel. He started his career there. So it's a real big turnaround to come in, bring in the top executive from another company, VMware in this case, and then have him help revive the product because Intel has lost so much market share to other competitors. This is a really good sign. This is a really positive sign for the business. It's exciting to see this. There's going to be a lot more coming out about this. Intel may become a market leader again, which is important because we need that in the United States. We don't have that. We're losing that in the semiconductor world. But that again answers that question. Do you understand the product? Do you use it? Yeah, everybody uses Intel in their computers, but they're slowly moving away to Apple chips and other competitors, AMD. So it's a question of future value, whether there's intrinsic value in the company today. And if you understand the product or service, then it has potential to grow. and you'll know better than anyone else whether it has a better future or worse future after today if you understand the product well enough right now. So that wraps it up. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's what I try to do for the Financier Weekly Call. I definitely recommend checking out the 2 events I'm hosting in the next 2 weeks. There's a lot more to come. There's a lot more being published on the techfinancier.com, where a lot of these pieces of media, written, audio, video, are all hosted. And then you can always sign up for the Weekly Financier, which is the newsletter posted on LinkedIn and in email. So whatever you like to listen or consume content, it's always available to you. There's a lot more coming. I'm always happy to answer questions. Always great to see familiar faces in the chat room and everybody else available that's chiming in. I'm very appreciative of your time. So until next time, it's Fajar signing off. Look forward to catching up very soon next week.